Roy Masters of the Foundation of Human Understanding teaches a concentration exercise to help you become calm and objective to your problems and to make your deepest fears and troubles disappear. The exercise is meant to be practiced in private, on your own, and is taught in an audio cassette package which is available from the Foundation. We invite you to write to Roy Masters at the end of this broadcast for more information concerning his method, and we urge you to call in and discuss your problems with him. Now, from the Foundation of Human Understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Okay, welcome once again to our program. As a matter of fact, I shouldn't say once again. This is the first type of program we have of this sort. You usually see my mug on television talking to people with problems on the telephone. But we're trying to do something a little different this evening, and it will take some kind of involvement. And I don't want you to sit there, like I said a few moments ago, like a bunch of dummies, but I want you to get involved with what I'm saying, because unless you can express yourself and let loose with what you've been thinking and feeling all along, and let me make some commentary on it, nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to change. You sort of have a lot of feelings, a lot of motives that you have hidden and buried, secret sentiments that have never come to view. Unless you get those secret sentiments out into the open, and that's not easy in the short time we've got, but unless you bring it to the surface and use this opportunity to do so, you'll never change, you'll never become better. You can't ask the local bartender, because all he'll do, you may ask the local bartender and bear your innermost feelings, but all you do is get sympathy, reassurance that the wrong is right, and then you're a lot worse than you ever were before. Bless you. And so this evening I just want you to just let your hair down and see if we can't get into you, the real you, the psychotic you, the part of you that never talks. Maybe the part that talks too much, we get a few of those too. And see if we can't shine a light on what's lurking in there, and those subtle currents, the interplay of energies between human beings that no one ever talks about, but are terribly destructive. It's what you really don't see and what you can't prove, the innuendos, the attitudes, the pretended love out of hate. But you see, it's underneath there's the smoldering hate, but there seems to be love. And there's something wrong with that love, which makes you hate, which makes you feel guilty, which produces love, but there's something wrong with that love. See, so who's got a problem with, I've got one card here that might start it off pretty good. Should a wife carry out her wifely duties at home? Who's got that problem? Wifely duties and anger. Who wrote this? Did you write that? Well, could you explain to me what you, I can't, it sounds like it might be a very, very, very good question, so can you reach him over there? Okay, right away, go ahead.
I feel that my wife is not doing what
you married her for.
Should be doing at home.
Yeah.
Okay.
We know what we're talking about, don't we?
Yes.
Is it sex?
No.
Oh, I thought wifely duties. Wifely duties.
Okay.
What else? What other wifely duties you can? Aren't those the most important wifely duties? I mean, she doesn't wash up.
Yes.
She doesn't make the beds. But she does all right in bed.
No.
Well, I thought you'd get to it. I mean, could you be more explicit, please?
Well, she is a housewife, and I really think that I shouldn't have to get
Strong
up
with
in the
her.
morning time and have to press my own clothes and do all this if she's going to be at home. Okay.
But is your wife a housewife and she doesn't go to work?
Right.
And she's got nothing else to do but do those things that should be
Yes.
done by such a partner, right?
And it's not being done, and
But she doesn't love you.
I knows that, but
Could she be doing that out of rebellion? You know, what about you? What do you have to say? Why don't you do that?
Well, it does have to do with the hate I do have.
Why do you hate
towards
him? Why do you hate him?
Because he doesn't show me the proper love that
Well,
he
no.
should.
What do you know? What love?
He demands, rather than asking me to do whatever.
Well, maybe
those
he
things I
demands.
know to do.
No, but maybe he demands from you because, see, we got to find out who the guilty one is here, because sometimes sometimes we can't find where it begins. Which comes first, the chicken or the egg? So we got to find out whether you're the one that lays the egg or whether he's the one that lays the egg, right? See, or who's got the egg all over his face? One of the two. But maybe it has something to do with you being typical female and wanting to be the ruler of the roost and wanting to be served and worshipped and loved. And it's almost like an auto mechanic. Have you ever been to an auto mechanic and you pay him money? And if he has an ego problem, he doesn't do his job properly. He doesn't fix your car, but he goes through the motions like kings, like a king on a stage. He goes through the motions and collects his tribute at the end of the day, but he doesn't fix your car. He pretends like he does it, but he will not serve anyone because he is the king. Why should he serve? He only goes through the motion of serving, and then he collects his money. And then when you complain about it, he makes you feel like there's something wrong with you. And pretty soon you walk away and you get mad, and you may go back 3 or 4 times, but you don't get your car fixed, and you go to another place and it's the same thing. Now, women tend to be the same way. You want to be served. And maybe that's your problem. You need a correction. And that's what love is all about. Perhaps he doesn't correct you properly. Perhaps you are so stubborn that you force him to be stronger than he needs to be. And that's the same with your children. If you support your children, for example, if you say, Daddy won't know that you can have this candy, you can have ice cream, don't tell your daddy about that. If you're supportive to your child, or go against the orders of your husband, when he comes home at night and he sees that the kid hasn't done what the child is supposed to have done, because you've secretly conspired to make the child rebellious, then the husband has to be stronger with the child than he would normally have to be. And it brings out the violence in a man. So could it be that your stubbornness, instead of taking the correction, instead of him saying to you, now look, that's not right, I work hard, I come home, don't you think it's right that you should at least make the beds and make me a nice dinner? And why should he have to tell you that? Shouldn't it be a natural knowledge on your part if you love your husband?
Yes, that's true.
You agree?
It should, yes, I do agree.
So
it should be something that I should do automatically.
Then why don't you do it?
Well,
you're rebelling though, aren't you?
yes.
Well, see, in other words, the more he tells you to do it, the more you rebel against it, and the more you don't do it.
And then when I do, although it should be done regardless, since that is my duty of being a
Yes.
housewife, but then he doesn't appreciate it. I mean,
Wait a minute. You still got to do it. Whether he appreciates it. His appreciation is not your problem. It shouldn't be your problem. It should be his problem. You should do. You're not doing it for appreciation, are you?
well, I shouldn't.
No, you shouldn't be doing it. You should do it.
Because it needs to be done.
Should you appreciate your worker? I mean, you give him money every day. That's what he works for.
That's true. Not necessarily, but
He brings money home every day. He's there for you. Isn't that enough for you?
well, actually, no, that's not so either.
What do you want from him? You want appreciation?
The right type of love,
What is that?
correction.
But when you
Yeah,
when he corrects you, when he corrects you and says, look, you should make the dinner, and you should keep the kids
But he's
nicely
mean.
dressed and iron the clothes,
He's
you
mean.
rebel against it.
Yeah, because he's mean.
Well, what about your love? What about if you just, never mind if he was mean, maybe instead of rebelling against his meanness and doing just the opposite and making him meaner and using his meanness to rebel as an excuse not to do it, don't you see there's no end to this? The more you do the opposite of what you're supposed to do, the meaner he gets. The meaner he gets, the more you get upset. The more you get upset, the more you rebel.
Yeah,
The more you rebel, the more you don't do it. The more you don't do it, the meaner he gets. There's no ending to the meaning.
that's true. That
Could
is
it be a validation really for the fact that you never wanted to do it in the first place?
Sometimes I really don't.
I mean, what is your motive in this? What is your motive?
Um,
If your child is mean,
mhm.
do you don't feed him?
Of course, I do.
Oh,
Mhm.
doesn't God make the rain shine upon the just and the unjust?
Yeah.
Why should you withhold your wifely duty from your husband because he's mean? No, you can't have dinner because you're mean. No, I'm not gonna iron the clothes because you're mean. And no, I'm not gonna give you anything to eat because you're mean. Those are not the things you withhold when
That's
he's
true.
mean.
That is true.
Because then he's gonna say, well, if you're not gonna serve my dinner, I won't bring home the money.
Which sometimes, well,
There you go. There it goes. And then he say, if you're gonna be mean like that, I'll go find some other woman. And then you brought it upon yourself. Now, which one of you is going to be smart? Which one of you is going to be smart first? I mean, one of you has to be smart first.
Well, I have already gone that far
You have.
quite a few times.
What do you mean
Uh,
gone that far? I mean gone out with another woman?
Yes.
It happens. See? It's
But-
only because you have one quality that you've got to give up that stimulates this vicious cycle between you. You both have the same quality. You know what that quality is? Resentment. If he is not right, and he's mean, and he is thoughtless, the reason meanness or thoughtlessness or cruelty is the reason for love. Why don't you be a mature woman and instead of looking for love, give it yourself? Instead of looking for love from him, give love. Return good for evil. Could you do that?
sure, I can.
But
do
not
that.
if you resent him. You do resent him, don't you?
Yes, I do.
And then you can't return good for evil.
Because, like, I listen to the program regularly, you know,
Yeah?
daily, and it seems that when I do become better in different areas, it seems that he becomes worse. I mean, he takes advantage. You know, it's like.
Oh, no, but
she's
you know what
getting
you're
better,
saying? You know
so he
what I hear you
gets
saying?
worse.
I know what you're saying. I'll try being nice to him and see what happens, and see if he changes. But after a few days or a few weeks of being nice and he doesn't change, then you go back to your old mean self. That's not love. Is it love?
No, it isn't.
Why should you let whatever he is affect whatever love should be forthcoming from you?
Okay.
It's manipulation. What you're doing with that kind of love, it's manipulating him into being good. And he senses it. He senses you playing a game with him. Because I know when you have that kind of love, it is very obvious that you're going out of your way to impress him, to show him that no matter how bad he is, you're going to be good. And you're going to try to make him ashamed of himself so he will be good.
But isn't that more than what he does? If he doesn't, I mean, if I was to see him, you know, try to become better, I'm not going to make it worse and become more of, you know, more difficult.
But you're missing a point.
But he never.
You see, the word is he never. You're how old are you?
23.
23. He never. How long you been married? Few
Well,
years?
5.
About 4.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Well,
4 years.
Our
I mean, he never is a long time, isn't
well,
it?
As long as we've been.
Yeah, I know. But you never loved him. You've never overcome his. Look, what is the purpose of marriage? The purpose of marriage is to overcome your weaknesses. See, isn't that right? Is to overcome selfishness. If you weren't married, you wouldn't have a reason to be unselfish. You see? So he's got faults. You know, I mean, if he was perfect, he wouldn't have married you, because he'd been walking on water. And old JC, he never got married. He'd already gone part. See, when you finally have worked out your problems between you and learned to love one another, then maybe you will be in a state beyond marriage. See, and but meanwhile, the marriage is where you learn to love each other. You never fell in love; you fell in heat.
Yes.
See?
I don't-
Yes, both of you. You're both in heat. You weren't in love, and you have to grow out of that understanding. You're both servicing each other's selfishness when you got married.
Do you feel that it's the right thing that, well, I am getting my business established, that I am at home. Do you think that my role as a mother is to be home with my child? Because
Absolutely.
he feels
That-
that
what do you-
I need to work.
Oh, he's wrong. Now I'm
Because-
going to give it to you.
Okay, well,
Now you're going to get it.
that right there.
If anybody wants to join in with this, you can, because is anybody identified with anything here? You could just let me know. If you feel like an urge, put your hand up and reveal yourself.
Okay.
Now, what? Don't you see what a natural role of a woman is to be a mother and a wife? To hell with women's lib, right? To hell with them. That's where they're going anyway, and leaving the rest of the country there if we're not careful. That's what marriage is all about, is that a woman needs to find a man that's responsible and loyal and dependable and worthy.
Exactly.
See? And when she finds that, then she feels that she can have a child. Because, you can't bring up a child without a husband, without a source of income, without protection from the vile environment, the crazy world out there, chicken hawks and all the rest of them. So, but you want to stay home, don't you?
Of course I do. Of course
It's natural,
I would
isn't it?
love to be,
So what you pushing her
the best
her
mother
to work
possibly
for?
Can be. And let me ask you this. Is his responsibility as a husband, isn't it supposed to be like, we're supposed to be like good best friends? I mean, like friends,
Yeah, what
right?
does that mean?
Well-
What do friends do?
Well, the type of friend, I'm speaking, we're supposed to communicate with one another.
What do
He's
you-
supposed to support me in my business, right?
Wait a minute. Are you a helpmate or a playmate? Is he married to you? Is he married to you, or are you married to him? It's a very important.
He's married. I'm married to him.
Okay, but you're not. Yeah, he's not married to you. You're married to him.
I'm married to him.
You got to get this in the right order.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, he's the man,
Mm-hmm.
and you're the woman. All the women with livers will be picketing outside the station tonight. But he's the man,
Mm-hmm.
and you're the woman. You see something good in him. You're hitching your wagon to his star. You're going to help him to accomplish whatever good there is in his life. You're attached to your goodness is loyal to his goodness.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's so difficult about that? He's the man that works, and you're the woman that stands behind him in that work,
Mm-hmm.
and reassures him, and supports him in his work. But he's the one that's supposed to work, and you've
Right.
got your work to look after the children.
Right.
And if you don't have any children, that's a different story.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can be a partner in his business, and when he gets older, when the children are older, then you can, and they leave the home. It's a different story, but your love for your children must be greater than the love for your husband.
And it is.
You must not love your husband more than your children.
Mhm.
There's something wrong with that.
I agree.
You understand that?
Mhm. I
Nobody else is
agree.
joining in yet. Yeah.
Okay, the real reason
We haven't got to
why-
anybody else yet. I think I've got to everybody, but no one's saying anything.
The real reason why I want her to go to work is because she is not doing what she should be doing at home. Just
Well, no, that's not just, that's very poor logic. You see, okay, so you won't make my bed, and you feed my kids right, and you won't iron my clothes, so out into the cold world you go and work. You might as well, but that's you putting pressure on, unnatural pressure. We got another question over there. You see the point, ladies and gentlemen, what we're trying to do? This concept is leading somewhere, and you may have some objection to this, and I'd love to talk to you about your objection to it, because there must be some kind of feisty little objection that I can overcome. Yes, now, go ahead.
Yes, I'm a mother of 3 children, and I also work. And lately, I've been wondering: is my role? Should I quit my job, or should I go to work? Should I stay home? Because I'm a working mother. I'm a working
Well, you have no choice.
housewife.
You have no choice, do you?
Well, I guess I do. I could
I mean,
either work.
you work.
or
Are you
not
married to a husband? Oh, you have a husband.
Right.
work. Yeah.
Well, what do you think?
Well, I've been fortunate to work, but right now, in my situation, I sell cars, and it's been pretty tough. And extra income helps. And I'm just looking for a time when it's possible that she can, when I start getting myself better off as far as working and maybe.
How old are the children?
My son's 11, my daughter's 10, and then she has another son from another guy that's
An older.
Yeah.
No.
No, he's
6.
6. Yeah.
I mean younger. Excuse me.
Yeah. And it's just a situation. I want her to stay home with the kids right now, but it's just a situation of a matter of income.
Well, how long has it been going like this?
Well, we were divorced for about 5 or 6 years, and
I
we're trying to
see.
get back together.
Yeah.
And so, as we're trying to get back together and get our lives straightened out, she had already had the job, and I was working. So we're just trying to get our act together.
Well, I listen. If the wolf was at the door, children understand that. Children understand that when a mother has to go out and the father's dead, there's a magical understanding that children have automatically. Don't sell them short. They're very intelligent. They're very perceptive, and they see the mother having to go out in a blizzard every day to bring food home, and because his father died, he's not going to hate his mother for that. But he is going to hate his mother because they're two ambitious swine, and they want the best of everything, and all they're going to work for is not for the kids, but to gratify their own selfishness. The kids know the difference, you see, and they leave them with a babysitter, and the babysitter brings them up, and the babysitter then abuses them. I mean, you got children. Did you get married to have a babysitter to bring up your children? Is that what you want, so that they recognize the babysitter as mama?
No,
You really think the babysitter has enough brains, or the preschool, wherever you leave them? You think those people have the qualifications to bring up your kid?
No.
No, you don't.
That's what I'm saying. I think my place should be with raising my kids, and
You
they're-
know it, don't you? In
Yeah.
your soul.
And it's really hurting them. It's hurting all of us.
It
I
is
think.
hurting them. There's no question. This is the breakup of the American family because, well, I can go into the taxes which have forced men and women, both men and women out, and leaving the chicken hawks to raid the nest and kill the children and destroy the children, and the kids don't have a mother and father to guide them. Two ambitious swine out there, working as hard as they can, hating the government, giving. It takes two now to. It often takes two to make a halfway decent living, because the government takes so much, and there's all kinds of hostilities and resentments because we no longer pay for our own sins. The people, the sinners of the world, don't pay for their own sins. The taxpayers do, for AIDS and welfare. So we're paying for their education. Someone somewhere in some dark part of the city is some woman who doesn't know who the father is of her 12 children. She's getting money and welfare and a nice place to live, and you're slaving your butt off, and you can't even get enough. And your kids don't have a father either. So we've got something wrong with the society we're living in. But I'm suggesting the greatest gift that you can give to your children, the very greatest, the most beautiful thing you can do, is to give them a mother and a father that goes to work, a mother that loves her husband and makes the best of what she's got and sews and buys from thrift stores. See? You're going to have a much happier home, and you drive in 1954 DeSoto. You're much better off. I tell you, you are much better off. You'll be a happier home and get out of a big city and get away from the scumbags that live around you, that corrupt your children. But have a mother at home, one that loves her husband. Because you see, the family has a very beautiful order. If a man is respectable, if there's a good spirit of loyalty and love, if a man loves what's right more than he loves his wife, you have to love gentlemen, you have to love what's right more than your wife, because that is pure goodness. If you love your wife more than what's right, you're only loving your wife because you're not right, and you feel good because she worships you. And you worship her, and you're really emotionally involved in a big trouble. You're in a big pile of shaving cream, right? But if a man loves what's right, and a woman sees that love of right in him, that strength, that resoluteness, that fidelity, right, in him, she corresponds with that, she supports that, she loves that, she respects it, she's conjoined with it, then that love of her husband's light is her light also. And the children see that as a military chain of command. There's a military chain of command. And you'll see that your whole household will be in order. All right? Now we've got another caller. I'm getting a bit dingy here. You know, radio programs and
Okay, but how long do you wait for it to work? I mean, you know,
forever.
Well, okay, so you wait, and what I'm saying is...
So let me put it this way, it does work.
Yes, I know.
You see, it's only the worker that isn't workable.
Yeah, I don't have
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't have any doubt about that.
See,
I'm just
if
saying...
if it's in you, if you've really got the quality, you've got the staying power.
Right.
It's the staying power that women test.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And I don't have any doubt about that. What I'm saying is that if it seems like it's taking 3 years with crawlingly little results, you know, does that mean that I'm
Hey.
crawling in the wrong direction?
Hold
or?
it. It could mean that you're crawling in the wrong direction.
That's what I'm
It could be
asking.
you're following Roy's Master's directions. What does page 3 say?
Right.
No, remember, now, I'm a married man. I'm 59 years old. I've got a 33-year-old son and grandchildren, and I've got a wife that's a pill. But she knows it, but she loves me. I stand with her. I never look at other women. I look, but I don't look. You know, I don't give that kind of look. It isn't in me, that.
But what if certain
no.
things seem to get worse?
No. See, my wife, the good Lord gave me my wife as stubborn as she can come.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But there's a reason. I only became a better person. So what if she never makes it? So what if she excuses herself all the way to the grave, and the very last minute she says, Roy, you were right. I'm sorry. Well, it's almost like Jesus dying on the cross. One man said, one of the criminals said, hey, look at you, you know, you're supposed to be the Son of God. Why don't you take us on the cross and take yourself off? And the other guy says, stop mocking him. We deserve what we've got. See what I mean? I mean, you don't know. If you had a wife from the very beginning who loved you and obeyed you and worshipped you, you'd be a dead man. What you need is a wife that gives you a hard time. I'm sorry, that's all the time we've got right now. Why don't you join us tomorrow night for part 2 of this husband-wife relationships? Join us. See you tomorrow night.
As we begin part 2 of yesterday's program on family problems, Roy is discussing husband and wife relationships with a member of the studio audience.
If you had a wife from the very beginning who loved you and obeyed you and worshipped you, you'd be a dead man. What you need is a wife that gives you a hard time. The very best woman for every man is a woman who gives a man a hard time and makes him reach into himself.
But how do you make
for the strength to
how do
love
you make
her.
the household work? How do you,
It
you know,
will work.
bring your children home from the therapist? You know, I mean,
That's right. You have to find light. You must have and come out of the darkness. You have to stop being a woman-centered man. You have to stop conniving and trying to make something work. You just have to be, so that everything is the extension of you. Do you know, I'll tell you a little secret. Now this sounds very egotistical, and from my first show here, people are going to misunderstand me. But my wife can't be bad, even if she tries, because a woman reflects a man, or a man reflects the woman, and mostly the man does reflect the woman, and that's the woman's frustration, isn't it, ladies? As a matter of fact, a woman reflects a man's meanness, his weakness, his cowardliness, his inability to save her from herself. He isn't strong enough in the light. See what I'm saying? He's too dependent on her
so what
favors.
you're saying is it takes as long as it takes for it to work inside me
It
first.
takes as long as it takes without using your will, without using your force, but having a quiet strength like Gary Cooper. But, you know, maybe he was too quiet. But the point is, it's like a quiet strength that never is ruffled, there's never disturbed, there's never frustrated because it didn't work this week or next week or the week after. Remember, 34 years I've been waiting. And I remember, I remember what Socrates once said about that, since we had to have a little anecdote here. He says it's good for men to marry, and if he gets a good wife, that's good for society, and he gets a bad one, he becomes a philosopher. So I could end up a philosopher, but that's good for society too. What I'm saying is that the chances are 99% that the woman, after keep trying you and trying you and trying you and trying you and never end, she's looking for something in you that she can't hate. A woman is looking for a man that she can't hate. And that, but she'll have to try it and try it. A woman doesn't forgive easily. You cross a woman one time, and she'll hate you for the rest of your life. And she'll put that hate, she'll hate all men. She started with her father, and you represent her father. She picked you unconsciously because you fall naturally into that category, and give her a reason to go on hating and hating, because she doesn't know how to stop hating. Because hating wrong to her is her way of life, is the way she feels right and secure. See, so you're going to have to find some strength inside yourself to deal with the woman's madness, because most women are crazy. And most men are weak. You see, and you're going to have to find, and the reason why women are crazy is because weak men bring out the frustration, the craziness in that woman. So naturally, her craziness is what you're dealing with. You had it in your mother, and you're attracted to it in your wife. We won't go into all the reasons. We haven't got time this evening, because you've heard me talk about it on my radio show. Every man is attracted to the woman that's just like a mother, and every woman is attracted to the man that's like a father. And they hate each other's guts, but they look like they like each other. Because they're both addicted to hate. See? So you're just going to have to be the kind of man that when a woman comes against you in her unreasonable ways and trying to aggravate you or even seduce you by pretending she loves you because she wants to weaken you so that she can have this wimp she can enjoy hating. Most women, when they love, they don't love because they love. They're testing you for your strength. They're seducing you to get a fur coat. See? They're making up for their guilt, and they're weakening you to become a hate object. They want to make you fall. They use sex or they use tease. They're mean to you one minute and nice to you the next, and both of them are designed to weaken you so they can get their hate fix. No. When you're looking at all this unreasonable behavior and you feel yourself reacting to it, you're the extension of that woman. You're the extension of her private hell. But if you are like a rock and everything comes against you and you don't resent her and you don't respond to her and you don't respond to the challenge with her anger, with more anger, her craziness with more craziness. Remember, you are being the extension of what's in her. But if you hold fast, she will see that you're an extension of something greater than both of you. And only then can you save her from herself. Only when she's fully tested it and she's satisfied that it's there will she melt into that. And you'll live happily ever after. Yes.
Well, what if it's the other way around? And I'm not saying I have problems, lots of them, but my husband is a pill. And is it possible?
Very, very possible that a woman is more wise than the man sometimes.
And he's also very stubborn, and it's very hard to get him to even consider that what.
So what is the situation that you're thinking about when you're saying that?
Well, we have a lot of problems. He drinks a lot.
You tell me you have a lot of problems, but you're not saying what those problems are. See, you seem emotional to me.
I'm very emotional. I am. I am an emotional person.
Meaning, what does that mean?
Well, we fight a lot. We have a 2-year-old daughter, and we fight a lot.
And what good is that fighting?
It's awful. It's
and
not good.
What are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to will your husband to do when you're fighting? After when you fight, you're trying to win a point, aren't you?
Well, I want him to be
what?
Right.
Okay, now do you think
because I need correction.
But do you think that you can force him to be right?
I know I can't force him.
Then why are you forcing him?
Because I can't control
In
him.
other words, are you saying that the only way you can be right if he's right? Therefore, you're threatened if he's not right. Do you know
No.
children are that way with their parents? They resent their parents because they're not right, because they feel that the unrightness of the parent is a threat to the child's innocence, because the parents have to be right, a good shining star, you know, a good influence, moral influence. When a child comes home and sees their mother going out with other men or something like that, you can't believe the shock in their system when they see the immorality of their parents, because they want and they hate their parents for not being right. But that's how they become wrong. If they would have forgiven their parents, you know, how does a child know what forgiveness is? But if they could forgive their parents for being wrong, they wouldn't have lost their innocence. So if you could forgive your husband, see, that's it. You are caught up in an intrigue. The more wrong he is, the more you resent him.
I do.
The more you resent him, the more guilty you feel as a
But the
person.
only way I know to counteract that is by meditating.
Yeah,
and
but
I
what?
meditate.
But you meditate for what reason? To become right.
Mainly, yeah, to become right.
Yeah,
and
but
to
you
raise
don't
my
need your
child
husband.
right.
Listen, it would be nice if it was your husband that would be your teacher.
Yes, it will.
Okay, but it's Roy Masters that's your teacher now. It would be nice in the days when Christ walked the earth.
Yeah, but you don't live
that
in my
hus-
house with my daughter and me.
Pardon?
You don't live in my house with my daughter and me.
I don't have to. I live in my house. You don't live in my house with my sons and my
I know,
wife.
but you're not there to correct me all the time, and so how does that help
No,
me?
no, you don't need a man to correct you. In your house, I'm the man. I could be that man, just like Christ, when he was there at the time, acted as the father for all women, and also the father that they never had for all men. That's all you need is a man, because otherwise you look. Isn't it true that women look at men, and they know that all men are alike? That's what they say. Yeah, all men are alike. They're all after the same thing. They're all selfish and rotten, and they don't know what love is. They just want you for your body. They want me for my bod, right? And they all have the same attitude. That's what stirs the contempt that women have. Women enjoy that contempt. Men look at, you see a pretty girl walk by, and the men go, you know, that sort of thing, and the women kind of, but deep down inside they like it and hate it. They get some sort of hateful stimulation out of that, an evolution of pride and contempt. But all it takes is for one man like myself. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect like Christ is. Do you see where I'm coming from? Do you see that I don't look at you like other men look at you? And don't you see I'm giving you the same, I'm like the father you never had.
I never did have a father.
I know, but no one's ever had a father. What are you talking about?
I guess that's true.
I mean, is there anybody here who had a father? Hands up. Anybody who had a real father here? I want to see a hand. Show of hands. Well, what are you doing here then? I had a good father too. I mean, I didn't have a bad father. I know that he was very dutiful, and he would work hard. He died when he was 42 years old, and I know my mother nagged him to death. I mean, I figured it out already. You know, he used to smoke a lot, but he never hurt me. He was never mean to me. I don't remember much about him. He always worked hard. There's not much memory. He never left much of an impression. And when he died, I never stopped crying. Because there's something in a child that needs something from a father. Listen, I must tell you this, talking personally, and I know that it's same with all of you here. When my mother died, I had to pretend to cry. Now, I didn't hate my mother, but the loss of a mother is not near the loss of a father. See, because you already had from your mother what could be had from a mother. When you were 5 years old, you had it all. See, what comes from a father is the most important of all. It's not only the children that need that from their father, but it's the woman, the little child in the woman that needs it from her husband, father-like husband. There's got to be a sort of father quality in every husband. Every woman is looking for that. And it's missing in the woman. That's what corrects the little girl in the woman, you see. That's what love is, to correct the little girl, to turn the female into a woman. But what they do is they turn the woman into a female. Their animal needs servicing. And they both go backwards. You see the point that I'm making? So there's something about a father. Now remember, my father was a good father too. He was as good as they come, But there was something missing. He missed it. He didn't have it himself. He wouldn't have died. He wouldn't have died. He smoked himself to death, or he had a heart attack. Whatever it is, something was missing. And I needed that. And I can remember crying at his grave. Why am I crying? I don't even know the man. But there's something I needed to know from a father. And you can know it from me, and that's why you're here. Your father was good, but not good enough.
Right. He died of cancer, and my mother's pretty manipulating. But I don't, through meditation, I've learned to become objective to it, and
Yes.
I don't resent her for it, and she sees that, but that makes her try harder to, and then I just let it, she can get red, white, and blue in the face for all I care and get mad because.
But you know what I'm saying about the father, though?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't interrupt your line of thought.
Right.
There's something about a father that, coming back to you again, what's your first name? Ken?
Candy.
Candy, okay. How sweet it is.
Not really.
No, there's something missing that you need from your husband, see, that you never had in your father.
Right.
And if you then you hated your father because it was missing, didn't you?
Well, he died, and that's always why I didn't think I had a father.
But how old was he when he died?
9.
But didn't you resent your father?
Oh, very much.
See, that's the point. Why did you resent your father?
Because he said something bad about me one time that I heard.
Is that, you mean that one time?
Maybe it was twice.
And that's
That
all
I only heard, and those are the only times
I know, but
heard.
for that rest of your life, you hated him only for that?
I'm sure there was more I haven't.
Yeah, I know, but you had
Touched
lots of
on that,
resentment
yeah.
towards him.
I guess I do.
See, remember I said a few moments ago, you only have to cross a woman once. She'll hate you for the rest of your life.
Just twice.
Twice. Well, it was just once. See, now what it is, you've transferred this hate towards your husband.
Yeah.
You haven't you?
Well, yes, but.
And as long as you
yeah.
hate him, you know what's going to happen? It's going to reinforce your childlike behavior.
Yes,
And
I
it's going to
am.
turn him into a man just like your father. And then you're going to be just like your mother and father were when you were a child. You're going to become like your mother. He's going to become like your father, because there's exactly how they squabbled and fighted, and for the same reasons exactly.
Yeah. I think I know that. I'm just so impatient about the change, though.
You have no faith.
I have no faith.
But you know why you have impatience? Because resentment. What is resentment? Could you tell me?
It's hate, isn't it?
Yeah, it's impatience.
Is it impatience?
Yeah, impatience, and impatience has no faith. So can you see that if you got rid of impatience, or if you stop resenting him, can you see what will happen if you have enough wisdom, enlightenment, to see or perceive that there's a little seed here called resentment, out of which ground the aberrant behavior of a little child sprang, the you that you are now. And to this very day, you've carried over the same behavior, because the only way you've ever known how to live, the only way you've known how to exist, is through having something to hate. See, because that's what gave. When you were a child, you were innocent, but the lack in your father tempted you to hate him. In Adam and Eve, Adam's lack, Adam's failure to correct, to love Eve, must have caused her to hate. What does a woman feel when her husband fails her? It's resentment and contempt. Okay, so men fall in love. Why do they fall in love? Is because they use the body of the woman to stroke his ego, to maintain his pridefulness. That's the root of all suffering in mankind. And they continue to pull on the woman to sustain the fallen, errant nature, which is called pridefulness, which is a separation from God to be one's own God. Now, but so therefore man's downfall came through the use of woman to support his pride. That use is failure, falling. So when men fall in love, women fall in hate. So when you look at you remember your father only hatefully because he failed you.
I don't remember only hatefully, though. But I think I have resentment for him. But I don't remember him only hatefully.
That's resentment. See, you don't People say, I don't hate anybody. Well, people don't know what the word hate means. They have some very bizarre thoughts. They see hate someone cutting up, disemboweling somebody and overkilling them and stabbing them. That's not hate. You never see hate until it's too late. It's made up of moments badly met. When you could love, when you can forgive, you resent. When you could be patient, you become impatient. It's all the opposite. Now you look at, and it all begins with impatience or resentment is the key. I'm trying to say a lot in a short time. Resentment is the key to your downfall. Men fall in love and women resent that. And that swells up inside you as a negative person. See? A negative person that's born out of that and needs more of that because you don't know how to be a positive person. You only know how to be a judge and jury, maybe an executioner. There's something that's born out of that.
Do I have the power to not resent, though?
Pardon?
Do I have the power to just stop resenting?
No, you don't. You have the power to realize that it's wrong.
Yes.
And if you don't realize that it's wrong,
Oh,
you
I
cannot
know
change.
it's wrong. I do realize
Are you
it's
sure?
wrong.
You're realizing. There's at the root of the problem. Now, what happens when you resent your husband? What are the feelings that come after that?
Hate,
Anger.
anger, very, very angry.
And then when
both
the
of
anger
us.
dies down, what happens? What's the feelings after that?
Let's see. Then,
You start to love him.
yeah.
And first you fight, and then you make up.
Mm-hmm.
See?
And then I feel guilty for how I acted.
Yeah, but that's right. And then you start to stroke his ego. You try to make him happy.
I try not to stroke his ego. I try
But
not
you
to
don't
do
realize that you are, because because the kind of love that follows this resentment. So here you're resenting your husband. Now you feel guilty, and out of the pit of that guilt,
Right.
instead of saying to yourself, "Hey, that's wrong for resenting him. I shouldn't have done that," and feeling a little ashamed, he's wrong, but the way you reacted to it was also wrong. See, he got his fix, and you got his fix from him, don't you see, by hating him.
Right.
So you got worse, and when you get worse, you feel guilty. Now, it's typical of a woman that after she feels guilty, that something comes out of that pit of that guilt. See, she starts to make up from that guilt and starts to love him, but it isn't a true love she loves him with. She loves out of her hate, and this love ruins him. When you're loving him, you're ruining him, and when he comes down to accept this love, which comes out of your hell, the hell of your hate,
Mm-hmm.
see? Because you're not sorry that you hate him. Unconsciously, you're setting him up to fall again because you're offering him this kind of love, seductive love. You think it's love, and you think you're making up, but you're not. But out of the hell of this love comes the kind of love that trips him and he falls. He comes down to accept that love, and he's weaker, and he's more irresponsible. He's less of the person after. Haven't you noticed after you've loved him that way and had the sex that he's worse afterwards?
Yeah.
Now you hate him again. And it starts all over again. You have love-hate. The love that isn't love, because it comes out of hate.
Mm-hmm.
It's the hate that comes out of hell. It's the love that comes out of hell's hate. And if you could stop hating him, you maybe, just maybe, if you could see clearly to forgive him, because he's locked into a habit pattern to you even as you are to him, and somebody has to see it first. Somebody has to forbear to hate. Someone has to forgive. Someone's got to be patient. Could it not be you first?
Yes, I could.
And could you not practice that forbearance and patience endlessly? Because if it doesn't save him, it will save you.
That's right.
See? Yes, we have a young lady over here.
Just following your line of thought, so if myself, I practice patience, that is an act of love. I mean, the love, hate, my mind is going boing, I'm trying to get a fix on what you're saying.
You have to get out of the love-hate thing. For instance, you can see that hate produces a kind of love, doesn't it?
Yeah, I can see that.
It produces a kind of it produces a kind of seductive love in you that
Never
men
thought
fall
of it,
for.
but I can, I
You
can key
can you
into
track
that.
with it?
Yeah.
So
So
now
my
you
question is, with patience,
patience is patience is a new kind of love, because because what you're doing is when you see something that's ill or evil or wrong or unjust, when you see that, we're all looking for things because we're hate-centered, death-centered. We need a fix of hate. We all do. We need to get upset to do our work. And sometimes, we hear the expression, when you're angry, you look beautiful. Because men like to make women angry, because then they're good for a little loving afterwards. You see what I mean? Men are purposely irresponsible because that makes women mad, and then then up comes that seductive love again, and they indulge. And down they go, right? They fall again and again, and the women hate that. They're in a trap. You're both in a trap. So what you have, I'm not saying you can't have sex. I'm saying in order to have the perfect order between man and woman, you cannot be romantic.
Oh.
In other words, you can't be, you can't fantasize and be caught up in a weak man, because the character or the nature that a woman carries into her from her home life with her father, the failing father, the bitchy mother, the whole ball of wax, right? The genes of original sin, if you like, that a woman carries into marriage is to feel sorry for a weak man, to support the wrong in him, and to bring the wrong out, and then become contemptuous of it, which fixes her need to hate. She's born out of hate. See?
I'm beginning to.
And men are born out of seduction. See? And of course they also hate women when they find that women are controlling them. They also have hate. But then hate only makes them sexual also. It awakens sexual desires, and it pulls them away from a state of grace, so that they become more animalistic, sensual. They're fixated to the woman's love more, as an answer to the emptiness of their being. See? You keep fixing each other. So you have to, what you have to learn to do is to give up resenting your husband. And are you married, by the way?
Yes, to him.
You are married. Are you married to you?
Yeah, we're together.
Okay. Is to give up. See, I know he's weak. I can take one look at him. See, if I was a mugger, I'd go for him down the street. But he's not as weak as he used to be. He's Mr. Nice Guy. See?
Yeah.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde sort of thing, but Mr. Guy, nice guy on the surface. And you thought that, when you married him, I'm sure you thought he was a nice guy.
I hated him when I married him. That's the irony of it.
Go on, then tell me.
Yeah, no, I didn't want to get married when I got married.
But why did you marry him?
It's a good question. I'm glad I did, but at the time,
Why did you hate him, and why would you marry him?
yeah. Why?
Were you caught up in that vicious cycle?
Yes.
Do you know, there's a book written by a young man, and I'm glad I threw it away, because I probably mentioned the name and all the women would run for it to get lessons on it. All the men would. But in this book, it teaches everybody how to be successful with women. And what you have to do is be a rogue. To upset women and to intimidate them and reject them. And this irritates women and upsets them. And women, of course, they love to be upset. And they love to have a man to hate. But the hate awakens the guilt. That strange form of love, that sort of feeling sorry for the man that she hates and having sympathy for it. And maybe that's what happened with you. Did you intimidate him? Did you intimidate him?
No, I was just the wimp on the outside that her father was on the inside.
And she hated him?
Yeah.
Well, that's right. So naturally, I told you, women are attracted to the men they hate. See, he's the wimp, like your father, and you hated your father, and you couldn't understand, but you hated it, but you were attracted to it, because you enjoyed the hating. And then you feel guilty, and you love it, and it turns it into more of a wimp, because it will slop itself right into you, right? It will melt right into that love, and follow that game plan that you've been programmed to give. So I'm right then, aren't I?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Have we done an hour already? It's a whole hour, has it? Wow, whole hour's gone. That's 2 half-hour shows. Well, we're going to do another show next week, and I've got to say this because we're, taping this for a live audience, and when it gets out to television land, it won't be live, but we hope that it will stir some, reaction in everyone, because I know that not many people have heard dialogue like this before. Mostly you have these phony, stupid psychologists and psychiatrists. Most of them are, I'm sorry to say, educated out of all the brains they were born with. And I just hope that this kind of stimulation will be the kind of thing that you will come back to again and again, and listen to me on radio and watch me on television whenever the programs are announced. And I just do want to thank the audience here for being so delightful. Thank you very much.
Roy Masters of the Foundation of Human Understanding teaches a concentration exercise to help you become calm and objective to your problems and to make your deepest fears and troubles disappear. The exercise is meant to be practiced in private, on your own, and is taught in an audio cassette package which is available from the Foundation. We invite you to write to Roy Masters at the end of this broadcast for more information concerning his method, and we urge you to call in and discuss your problems with him. Now, from the Foundation of Human Understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Tonight I want to make the first part of a 2-part series. Tomorrow night will be the other half hour. I want it to be more of a free-flowing question and answers. Last week we did husband and wife thing. And I can go on all night and all week and for a whole year on that subject. But there's so many people here had other questions that weren't necessarily relating to that, but probably it'll come back to that, because that's where all the problems in life start between men and women. And your kids get it, and they grow up to be men and women that produce children who are troubled, who grow up to be troubled parents and produce children, and it's so on endlessly. So we're probably going to get back to it, but let's see number unos.
I want to know if she stays home and I start off, let's say start my own business, it'd be like a risk type of a gamble in faith. I mean, as far as...
I'm not following you.
Well...
What the question you're trying to
okay, the
grapple
question
my cage with?
Okay. I want to start my own business.
All right.
Okay. But, I haven't started it yet, and I want to know if she's staying home watching the kids, is it like a risk as far as in faith type risk? Just go out there and, like you said, the wind and the storm and that type of thing?
Yeah, well,
to develop my character.
You're worrying about whether you can have enough money to carry over to your new business catches, right?
Right.
Well,
exactly.
I used to work for a living before I became a television star and an advisor, became a parasite like all the others. No, and so I used to be a diamond cutter, and I practiced professional hypnotism, but hypnotism was my love. There wasn't much of a market for it in those days, especially for a person, who didn't have a degrees, and besides, in those days, I'm talking about, how many years ago, 30 years ago, 35 years ago, it wasn't an accepted part of anything. The medical profession laughed at it. Anyway, I liked it. I knew I thought there was some future in it, and I was interested in it. So I had a diamond cutting business, and I had my own thing. But gradually, what I did is I started this other business on the side, the hypnotism thing, and gradually pulled away from my other business. I had a business already that I was in. See, I had my own business already. But how did I get into that? Is this by the same techniques. I was working, and I started a business on the side, and when it got strong enough, it's like a monkey doesn't let go. When he goes from tree to tree, he reaches from one branch to another and lets go of the branch when he feels he's got securely hold of another branch. I'm not sure that's how they do it, but that wouldn't be me if I was a practical monkey. You know what I mean? So what you need to do is to start a business in the evening, on weekends, and make it work. And don't jeopardize the health and the security and the stability of your family. You just can't go jumping off into space. Okay? Make sense to you?
That makes sense.
So that way you won't have to be afraid Just do something and watch it grow. You won't have to have anxiety, because things don't work when you have anxiety. When you have to sell a car, when you have to make a living, your hands are sweating, and you have to sell something or achieve something, what happens? People sense that and they fight back, and they make the opposite happen, don't they?
Yeah, it's getting real rough out there.
Yeah, see, now you do much better when you're relaxed and you're happy, and you can do most for your clients and for your business when you can do it because you enjoy it and not because you know, if they say no, you starve. Okay, the next question.
My question is about, I've been meditating for about a year, and my whole life changed drastically. And about 2 months ago, I stopped meditating, and my life really changed.
Back again.
Yeah, for the worse.
Well,
I once
do you
heard
answer your own question, I hope?
I've been trying to meditate, and it's like I can't.
What have I told you?
I don't know.
Meditation is a commitment. I mean, there's all kinds of meditation. There's meditation that border on self-hypnosis, self-mesmeration, self-mesmerism, I should say, mesmerism, animal magnetism, and all those things we can discuss what they are in later discussions. But the meditation that I teach you is a commitment to a higher and truer self, and to resist the stresses and temptations of the world, and to drive the identity, the body that's formed out of those reactions out, and let the new body, the Bible says the body of Christ, in from the inside, to be remolded through your mind from within, or another way of saying that is to be reborn, born again. See, the old self dies and the new self is implanted and it starts to grow. But you don't dare stop that process. You don't dare. It's deadly.
Can I do this again?
I can't tell you. Possibly. Should never let... Next time, if it catches on, don't be stupid. Because you see, do you see what you've just said? It says that you could stop if you wanted to. In other words, what you're saying to me is that you weren't under a compulsion to meditate like the other people. If the Hare Krishnas, the Maharishi people, the Rajneesh people, all the various yoga people, did you know that once they start to meditate, it is no longer meditation, a free will offering. It is a compulsion. It's like drugs. Once you're caught up into something for your salvation, once you're using a hypnotic something affixed to it as a false form of salvation for your ego, your pride, once you're fixed to that and committed to it, you can't stop. You can't give up your fix. You have to have your drug. You have to have your personality. See, to stimulate and make you feel alive. It is once you're caught up in that sort of meditative fix, which is hypnosis, it's no longer a voluntary act of free will surrender to your Creator every day. So what you're really saying is you could stop real easy, couldn't you? You decided you could stop. And that is, I'm so glad you said it in a sense. In one sense I'm not glad, because I hate to see you fall to flutter down again and start to suffer. But in another sense it made a good point. You're not under any compulsion nor any obligation to continue in this. But you do so as a free will choice every day. Point made. Okay? Make sure you offer yourself then. Yes.
Mr. Masters, my question is, would you think it'd be wise for a person who meditates and is objective to hypnotic manipulations of others to remain in their presence for fear that maybe a subtle suggestion may creep in?
Could you elucidate?
Pardon me?
Could you elaborate? Give me the situation.
Well, say the person isn't a hypnotist, but he's got those qualities that he's a manipulator.
Well, you
And-
find them everywhere.
Right.
Would you want to go in a monastery and avoid
No,
them?
but I mean, say you can see that he's really subtle with
Who are you
his-
talking about?
Well, absolutely nobody in particular,
Well-
but somebody who could be that,
It's not a clear
silver-tongued
question.
devil that could.
Yeah, well, it's not a clear question.
Well, I don't know how to make it any clearer.
I know, but it's still not a good question. I mean, I mix freely with everybody in my daily business intercourse, right? And I meet all kinds of people. I don't shrink from. I'm not stuck in the ladies' room or the men's room or stuck in my house. I go out in the world and I experience life.
Well, in other words,
Some people I can have something in common with. Some people are too wimpy for me to have anything to do with. And some people are real manipulating sociopaths or psychopaths. I can still do business with them, but I just want to watch my P's and Q's, right? But then some people I would like to know, to have more to do with, be my friends. There aren't many of those.
Right. Well, maybe in other words.
But what is the question? It's just simple.
Right. Well, in other words, like, should you stay there and listen?
Stay where?
Well, just like, say you're in conversation with somebody, or you're in the presence of somebody that, like your boss.
Well, okay. Well, now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah. That because my boss is very intimidating, very
Well,
manipulative.
you find me a
and-
boss that isn't.
Right. Would it be wise to stay in his presence, or and just watch him objectively, or?
It's not a good question.
Yeah.
You're rambling there. It's not.
Maybe I just don't have my words together.
You don't,
Yeah.
and you don't even have you don't even know what the problem is yet.
Yeah.
It would be wise to meditate the way I'm teaching you,
Right.
and learn to deal with every situation with dignity and put an objective distance between you and everybody. And you can feel, there are very strong, powerful entities, individuals, characters, manipulators you call them, sociopaths, psychopaths, and when you stand in the presence of one of these people, you can feel it, and you can feel like you're being sucked into a great whirlpool, see? And you feel like you surrender to that individual. You can't help, you feel like, when you're standing there, Hitler had a tremendous power over people. He was a big black hole, and he sucked everybody into it, and they thought that was love. And he approved them for their weakness. When it's like the irresistible vampire. You hate him, you fear him, but you feel irresistibly drawn, and even though you're terrified, you give your neck, right? That's the type of person you're talking about, isn't it?
Well,
Yeah.
I've heard you say that some people have that capacity by being around you to know all the little buttons.
But you can feel.
Right.
But for the most part, most people aren't that strong. You'll meet politicians and movie stars who have a great black aura, a way of sucking the life, the guts out of everybody like an octopus with a crab, right? You don't meet many of those, thank goodness. But there's enough people out there who you can feel them watching you through a dark hole, from the dark side of the force. And what they do is that the manipulator, this is an interesting technical side of the question, and you're making me say this, you know that. And I would never have said it otherwise. But you know how a radar signal sends out a blip and it bounces off the mountains or whatever obstacles, and it gives a little shape or form on the video screen? It's called radar. In order for this creature to grope its way, because it's basically a parasite, it has to send out signals. It's really an invisible signal, and you can feel them sending these signals out and scanning your whole body for weaknesses. And you can feel it, that someone's scanning you. Be on your guard. Be aware, because if you don't know how to deal with that moment, you can find yourself being drawn into their power, under their influence. And there's not a word said. You find yourself, your intellect, your mind is paralyzed. You find yourself going along and giving them things that you would never would have done under normal circumstances. And when they've gone, you can't understand why you gave everything away, why you did what you did. Women can give their bodies and that sort of thing to such people. And so, of course, you're actually, the way you deal with life sets you up for meeting such a fate. So that's why you must, in everything you do in life, you must be strong, never give in to your dark side. See, because every time you give in to a dark side, the dark side feeds on, you're sacrificing a little bit of your soul. And your power, your moral power to resist such evil begins to atrophy. See, because if you give in to your own dark side, if you give in to any little whim, buying even a 5-cent candy bar, I don't think there is such a thing, I haven't bought one for such a long time. It's 35 cents right now. I feel like Rip Van Winkle, I just woke up. If you give in to a 35-cent candy bar, you're weaker than you were before. Something says to you, buy me, eat me. And you're giving up some part of yourself that is good and enlarging and feeding another part of yourself that isn't good. But the more you do that, as you begin to morally decay, when it comes to real life, and meaning such an eventuality as we've been speaking about, you find yourself unable to morally resist. That's what's wrong with America today. If Americans keep giving in to the immoral demands and pressures around them, and they lose the fiber, the strength, the resoluteness to resist, the moral resoluteness to fight, then when it comes time to stand up against Russia or anything like that, we will not have the moral power to resist. We might even welcome them, because we'll have become so much like the enemy that we'll have identified with them and surrendered to them as though it was love. See?
Thank you very much.
Does that make sense to you?
Very much so.
So watch these people scanning you, but prepare yourself for life. Do not give in to temptation, so you may be delivered from evil. For then his is the power and the glory. You see what I mean? Rather than the other. Okay, the next question. Just behind it, okay?
What about just staggering fear? I mean, I've really developed a good way of projecting confidence. Everybody always tells me how confident I look.
But you're not.
What about that staggering fear that I feel inside that does close me off sometimes?
Well, what about it? I don't understand what name have you given it? I don't know what...
Oh, well, okay, like for instance, I'm in the sales business, and sometimes I just won't call a client when I feel that way. I just won't call.
But tell me what fear it is you feel.
I can't even identify it. That's why I asked you
You've got to
first.
you got to do better than that.
Well, it's I don't know, the fear of failure. I can't even describe it to you. It's
Fear
like,
of success?
well,
Could it be a fear of success as more so than a fear of failure? Because you're
I've
such
never been one, I wouldn't know.
Well, yeah, but the point is, don't you wish that you could be discovered for the weak? But you remember, you put out an illusion.
Right.
You put out a front,
Right.
and people think you are solid, nice guy, good guy, and you live on that approval, don't you? You encourage that thinking about you.
Yeah, I encourage.
You feel you encourage it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also making you dependent on it.
I suppose.
Because in other words, as long as that's going on, you can't really be the person you could be. As a matter of fact, it's encouraging you to be a weak person, a phony, dependent upon, so that you have to act more like you're not, in order to feel secure, which you're not.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying? You're nodding your head, kind of.
Well, I still don't see the way out of the jungle, though.
Well, but do you see the problem is first? We have to see what the problem is
Yes,
first.
I see that.
In your own words, could you play it back for me?
Yeah, well, what's happening is I become dependent on that adulation, so to speak.
Right.
And that dependence makes me weaker still.
Okay, and then you resent that.
And I resent that.
You do. That's the word right there. Don't you? You even resent the people who, don't you wish somebody would see through you inside? Don't you wish deep down inside, underneath in the fear of fears?
Well, they're all groveling little measles in my mind when I see them do that.
You have a contempt for everybody that sees you in that. In other words, you manipulate people to see you in a certain way, and you resent them for it.
I resent them for it, exactly.
Right. So now do you see the reason why you're afraid to call on your next client?
Yes.
Because deep down inside you resent them. You know what you're like? You're like a woman.
Yeah. I see that.
You seduce people to be, in other words, you have a prettiness about you, a beauty, and people love you for that, but it only encourages you to be a phony.
Mm-hmm.
See? It robs you, and they have respect for you, robs you of real salvation. It makes you dependent, and it encourages you to be an actor, more of an actor. You get drawn into that experience, don't you see? And you resent them for it as though it was their fault. It's a vicious cycle. But don't you wish somebody would stand up to you and say, hey, you're a phony?
Yeah.
Deep down inside, don't you wish that?
Sure.
Well, you're a phony.
Thanks.
You just exposed it. Now, do you resent me for it? Now the problem is, do you resent...
Oh, no. But, I mean, what's the way out of the jungle?
Well, I would say this, that you see, deep down inside, what you're looking for is love. And someone to stop you. But you're too clever. You see, you've got such a good disguise that you fool everybody. And you hate them for being so weak and being so fooled. That's what you say. You have contempt for the people you fool. And somehow you blame them for your dilemma. Resent them. Why don't you give up resenting those people? You don't have to tell them you're a phony. You don't have to do that. You just have to look at that condition from an objective point of view inside yourself. I mean, just look at this and say, this is ridiculous. Here I have fooled these people, and then I become addicted to, I puff up like a snake, and then I have contempt for these people. This is ridiculous. Why don't you just resolve it just by watching yourself?
Yeah. Well, I didn't even realize I resented them, but
Just now you did.
yeah, just now.
Just a second. And that keeps the vicious cycle going, because when you feel guilty, when you resent them, you feel guilty. What does a woman do? Did we talk about this last time? When a woman resents a man, she feels guilty. When she feels guilty, she puts on this beautiful makeup, and she puts her best, she puts on her best everything, right? And then she starts to seduce. And the husband says, oh, you look wonderful, dear. And then he uses her. And he gives her all kind of compliments and encourages her to be this way. But she doesn't want to be this way. She wishes her husband would not fall for that. You see? But he does. And that encourages her to be a whore. Or you see what? You're doing exactly the same thing. And then you resent your husband. Or you resent, not you, you're
Right.
but she resents her husband for that. And it starts all over again. It's the resentment that separates you from whatever it is you could be, and makes you loathingly dependent on this other system of things. You see what I'm saying? Resentment separates you from love and addicts you to false love. When you resent a person, listen very carefully, when you resent another human being, it produces millions of strange aberrations, strange fascinations and fixations and lusts and loves, tormenting, each one more tormenting than the other. And the reason why it does is because when you resent anybody, it separates you from the ground of your original being. Let's take a good example of this. Let's forget your problem for a minute. We'll come right back to it. Children resent their parents for for their failing to be parents. All right? Remember, we spoke about that the time before. They resent their parents for not being what they should be for them. What is in a parent is in default of what should be there. If the good isn't there, then what is? Evil. There's only good, and the parent is not evil, and the parent isn't good. Good and evil are spiritual attributes. It is a quality of soul that is attached. You're either coming out of good or you're coming out of evil, and something is in a person that you perceive and sense that loves you or doesn't have your best interest at heart. See? And this is what children sense in their parents. Now, that quality, its purpose, once it gets inside your parents, who got it from their parents, who got it from their parents, all the way back to antiquity, but the motive, the modus operandi of that type of spirit, it is to tempt you to fall, to seduce you. It does it with flattering and lies and, oh, what a wonderful child you are, what a wonderful person you are, oh dear, darling, falling with flattery. But the other method, so you come down for that love and become addicted to it. And then comes the hate out of that, because when you find yourself addicted, here comes the hate. But love or hate is a seductive power. So therefore, nearly always our seduction has come from the injustice of our parents. There's something unholy sitting there looking at you in the place of what should be holy. And when children perceive that when they're very young, the cruelty of it, they resent their parents. And that's exactly what the thing inside parents who also have been seduced wants the child to feel. Because when the moment the child resents the parent, it has disobeyed a basic law of the universe, a universal law for human beings. As it applies to, do you remember there's an invisible circle that goes around the earth, it's called the equator, where north becomes south, but there's no line there. So your conscience has invisible boundary. And the purpose of the thing is to pull you across the boundary so that you go from West Germany into East Germany and come under a different system of things, don't you see? So that when you, as a child, you are unsuspectedly trapped into hating your mother and father when the commandment says don't. All right? And there's a purpose for it. It doesn't say, honor your mother and father for no reason at all. There's a reason. Because your parents, your father especially, represents the bright side of the law. Even if he's a bad father, like a bad judge, at least he represents the law. You must not hate your father. Now, I won't go into the ramifications of this, but the dark side of people is the same as the dark side as your parents, because all those people are parents, aren't they? Most of them are. And victims of their parents, so that little children go home, go to school, and are cruel to the smaller children. See? So there is in this world a spirit, so to speak, an attitude that teases you to be resentful. And when you're pulled away, when you react to that when you obey it, you're separated by that disobedience from that divine law. You're pulled across to from West Germany to East Germany, and you come under a whole different system of things. And you find yourself desolate, empty. And a strange thing happens. The creature, the imprinted self, the implanted self, seeks to fill the emptiness, to complete itself, not from its original ground of being, which it's lost, but from the very thing that traumatized it. So that's why you have a love-hate relationship. You hate. And hate separates you from true love. And it puts into you an identity of the corrupter. It puts you in a little bit of that person gets inside you, and that little bit cries out for the love of what recreated you in its image. See? And when it loves you, it fulfills you in a wrong way. It weakens you even more. Then you hate it. And then you hate it. It separates you from God even more. And this love-hate relationship you carry all the way through your life. See? Well, that kicks it in the head for this evening. How about joining us tomorrow night for part 2? I hope you're enjoying this program. Hope it's enlightening and edifying. See you then.
As we begin part 2 of yesterday's program, Roy is discussing the nature of the subconscious and the conscious mind.
The conscious mind should always be objective to what you call the thinking, feeling self. You call it the subconscious and the unconscious. The unconscious affecting the automatic, atomic, nervous system, that part that operates without us, where the heart, the functions, the enzymes, whatever's going on in your body. But there is a sort of an automatic nervous system which, if we're not careful, can pull the conscious mind, which should be the sentry, the ability, that part of us which has inherited common sense, native to one's birth, a birthright. And we can get pulled into our subconscious, and so that we go along with the currents there, the programming there, helplessly, which is most compulsive behavior. And the cure for all that, and a wasted life, because the result of all that, of course, is a wasted life, right, is to stand back, to separate the two. So the thinker and the thinking are divided. Because you can't control yourself until those two are separate. Because unless the conscious is separate, objective we call it, right? So that the thinker observes the thinking, and the thinker isn't thinking into the thinking, see, caught up in the stream. Unless this happens, one, the consciousness cannot oppose the automaticness, the automatic pilotness of the subconscious. See what I mean? So you see, and therefore, once the thinker is caught up in the thinking, there is no resistance to stress, pressures. See, there's no resistance. Your mind can be programmed by all the incoming stimuli and information. You get confused. Or if you're not confused, you're caught up in some line of thinking or religion or belief system, which will ruin you. Objectiveness, the ability to sit quietly and look at thought and see what is real and what is not real. You know what? I can describe that as a person dreaming a nightmare. He thinks his nightmare is real because he's not awake. The cure to a nightmare is not running through another door and finding a bigger demon in there, another octopus sucking you down into a bottomless pit. It's not running away, it's waking up. When you wake up, a new light shines on and it shows you that your dream was indeed a dream, it wasn't reality. And that's all you really need to do to change your life, is to wake up from being caught up in your thoughts. Because as you go through life and you keep making excuses and you keep denying the truth in order to avoid seeing your mistakes through pride, the more you deny, the more excuses you make. The more excuses you make, the deeper you fall into your own computer. The more deeply you sleep, the more deeply you dream. The more you're caught up in the unconscious processes, and the more bigger mess you make of your life. Follow? So it happens to all of us. And the answer to all of the problems in life basically is simply learning to wake up from a dream. So walking around worried, that's a dream. Have you ever walked around worried? And next morning you woke up, you went to sleep, and next morning you woke up and you said to yourself, wasn't I worried about something yesterday? Has it ever happened to you that something was really troubling you and you happened to fall asleep and next day for some reason you got disconnected and you found that it either solved itself or it really wasn't a problem to be worried about. You were sort of free from it. How many people have had that experience? Then you know what I'm talking. I think most of us have. What if I could put you in a state of consciousness permanently that way, so that you never fall asleep, that there wasn't wasn't even a problem the night before to wake up without a problem from? Wouldn't that be beautiful? Can you see that you would problems, life wouldn't be making a mess and digging and curing it and cleaning it up, making a bigger mess and cleaning that up and making a bigger mess and cleaning it up, and one of these days somebody comes along and cleans you up. And that's the end of your life, always making a mess and cleaning it up. Wouldn't it be nice if life could go, without the negative, go sailing forward, without those mistakes? It is possible. That's what Christ taught. The churches have forgotten it, how to do it. You're learning that with a meditation. I didn't mean to be so long-winded. All right? Who has another question? Right here. And then the lady in the front after that.
My question is, when you've reached a point, when you have 3 children and they are living with their father, who is living with somebody, and
I saw that on a card somewhere.
I myself, I know the right thing to do, neither one of us are remarried, is to get back together and raise those children.
Well, that'd be the ideal.
That's the right way. That's what's right. But he doesn't want to do that. He wants to marry the girl he lives with.
Stupid fool.
Now what do I do?
What have you done to drive him off? What have you done? I mean, you're a pretty little thing. And,
I was in control, and I didn't know it.
with your prettiness, right?
I was in control.
How did you get control? And didn't know it? You sure you didn't know it?
I really didn't. When I was married, we were married for 7 years. And I never said
were you always in agreement with him?
always.
Ah.
And whenever I tried to whenever I knew something was right and I would try to voice that, I was always wrong and he was always right and he
But you went along with it. In other words, you went along with him right or wrong, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's how you destroy someone. That's
I was-
exactly how the movie stars are taking control of America. They'll love you no matter what. You know, every man has a dream partner, a girl of his dreams, and this girl of a dream always validates him as some imperial king. And as long as men live with the fantasy of a woman validating him no matter what, he'll always deteriorate and become the slave of this creature. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Remember I said in one of the programs that the best thing a man can have is a woman that gives him a hard time?
Oh, yes.
But the very worst kind of woman is one that goes along with a man no matter what.
But
That's what causes men to be violent. Because if you always agree with somebody, take a kid. Let's say you had a kid, and every time he wanted candy, you gave it to him. He nagged and screamed and yelled, and said, here's the candy, and here's this. What kind of creature will you have at the end of that time? A raving maniac, a spoiled brat, one who hates you, who can't do anything for himself, one that's dependent on you. Now when this creature realizes that everything he's got is through you, and he has to get it through you, and he's dependent on you, what does he do? Does he love you or hate you?
he hates you.
Right.
But now what do I do? The fact that he doesn't want to get back together with me. He wants to
Why?
marry
Because
this girl.
you feel like he feels like you're manipulating him.
Oh, yes, I know he does.
And so what are you going to do now? You're going to let him do that too?
No.
What are you going to do?
He
You
has
better
to
go.
be-
I tell you what you do is you go knock on that man's door and bring your kids.
But they live with him.
You live with him.
Yes.
I mean, does he have custody of him?
Mm-hmm.
You mean to say you gave him that too?
Yes, I did.
What did you do that? Hoping that he'd give you
After
love?
being married for 7 years, I was very confused. All of a sudden, I thought, the Mormon church just can't be right.
Oh, it's the Mormon church, is it?
And this is my ultimatum. You can either live in this house and have me, the boys, in the Mormon church, or there's the door. Now, if I knew then what I know now, I would have stayed.
But you have a legal right to, does he have a legal right to these kids?
Yes, he does.
What a dumb jerk. You've been taught all wrong, you know that, don't you?
Oh, I know I have been.
They've done a number. I'm glad you're out of that, whatever it is.
So am I. But now, my question, what do I
Go
do?
get the kids. Then go get your husband. Then go get the church. And fight for everything you've got. Come out fighting. Not with anger.
Uh-huh.
That's your 3 children is your whole life.
I know they are.
Your husband, the woman can have as she wants. I mean, he's not worth having. I personally wouldn't want him back.
No, I really don't want him back.
But otherwise, you're going to have the old religion right back in your home
That's
again.
right.
What do they teach you in that religion? That man is God? Is that?
That man is God, and the woman sits back and keeps her mouth shut. And all of a sudden, the day that I didn't keep my mouth
See,
shut
I've said that
anymore-
before on my program. This is one of the dangerous things about this teaching.
That's right.
And they all look like such little angels, don't they?
Oh, yes.
And they have such a good public image, don't they? But the teaching is a bit cuckoo.
That's right.
And did you know that the original sin was that man strove by the forbidden fruit and by the help of a woman's love to be a god?
I understand.
And that's exactly that's a satanic doctrine. It has to be, don't you see? And now you see it, don't you? You
Oh,
were
yes.
programmed ever since you were a little child to go along with that whole thing. It's a satanic doctrine. It's not a real doctrine, because Christ is going to come back to save us, save man from playing God, and save woman from having to play the supporting role of that, which is pure agony. Because I guess you were taught that you were a little goddess and you could look down from your heaven and see all these kids, beautiful kids down there that you created in your image. It's weird, isn't it? It's all insanity. Any religion that tells you that you're God. Of course, marriage by itself, it doesn't have to be Mormonism or anything like that. Marriage by itself plays that game, doesn't it? You don't have to put the words into, but when you put the words into a mouth and make a religion out of it, it sounds like true, because we're doing that anyway, aren't we? So that's why it's so easy to accept. It's the words of the ancient dragon. Watch for it. Go fight with every ounce of breath you got, but no hate. Go get them. You've lost everything. But you see, what you've lost mostly is your soul. Do you see that? Got to be a fighter now. You got a man or woman's got to stand for something. Don't let them take your kids. Let them keep your husband. Don't let them take your kids. All right? Fight for their lives. All right? Who has a question? Oh, this lady right here.
Mr. Masters, you're the only man I know that says that if you think a thought about me that's wrong, watch out, it's going to hit you right back in the face. You can't hurt me with your bad thoughts. Right? And since no one else says that so arrogantly, do you have an angel or someone that's defending you? That if I come up with an abrasive comment, you just calmly let me have it, and I'm going to get a ricochet?
I may not let you have anything.
Well, you say...
Let me tell you how it works.
Okay.
Because then it will work for you too.
That's what I want.
I want you to have the same angel.
Thank you.
See, Christ said, you know, you should love one another as I have loved you. No man has ever loved anyone the way he loved. He didn't love the women with lust in his eye. He loved them with a fatherly love, with a corrective love. And he says, you know, resist not evil, resent it. Translate it accurately so that it's understood in modern language. Resent not evil. That's what, you don't resist it with resentment. Don't hate other people. That's what he taught not to hate. So here's a perfect combination, blending of those words. See, if I was a translator, I'd know exactly what he meant. I would choose that word, resent not evil. How we spoke about that before, resentment pulls you away from love. And if it pulls you away from love, how can you overcome evil? If you haven't got love, but your resentment pulls you away from it. So when people throw these barbed darts at you, why do you think they're doing it? It's because they want you to be angry and resentful, so that you cannot overcome them with good. They will overcome you with their evil. And people are bullies. They're psychic bullies. They've always been able to get a rise out of, you know, the husband comes home and takes out on the wife, and the wife comes home, the wife takes it out on the kids, and the kids take it out on each other, and then the smallest one takes it out on the dog, or smashes a doll against the wall. You know what I mean? It's because we take it out on each other, and we are very successful. We can always find someone weak enough to respond to us and not overcome us. We want to conquer each other with our wickedness. Because we have been conquered, see, we turn around and get power to our powerlessness. You see, when you're conquered, you're powerless. But you don't know how the powerlessness came about. So you turn around and you conquer, and you take somebody else's power away. And then you feel the king on a smaller mountain. No, you do that to me, and a strange thing happens. I know the game you're playing. See, I'm not saying you couldn't do it. It's possible. It's possible that I would be resentful one day. But right now, you know, between you and me, you can bust a gut. And even if you try, it will destroy you, because the thing inside you would be afraid. See, because you have to win. You have a pride. And in order for you to be strong, I have to become weak. So when you test me and I don't fall, then who feels the weakness? The terror. You do. Now, I could play a game. If you're mean, I could be mean back to you. But it means I'm part of a system. I'm vulnerable. See? And if I'm part of a system, if I'm strong before the weak, then I'm going to be weak before the strong. Someone's going to be stronger than me. I'm in that system. I dare not use to knock you down to build myself up, because that isn't love. That's not a way of getting anything good back, by taking it out, your good out of you. I must have the good within myself. And therefore, if I love what's good and true, I understand that system. I've sought the truth and I've found it, and I found that by hating others and not forgiving them and judging them and falling to their intimidation, I'm being separated from the God whom I love. And I'm also robbing them of salvation too. If you tempt me and I'm not found wanting, one of two things will happen. You got egg on your face, but you can also repent. You say, thank God. I remember a story, walking down an alleyway, and this guy backs his car out and almost knocks us over. I'm walking down with my children. So I jump on the running board, as I often do, and things like that, and drag him out of his car. See? And I face him down. I said, hey, just a minute, you almost killed us. And he starts to rise up like a real snake, and I just looked at him. I said, what do you expect me to do? Stand there and get knocked down? I'm trying to tell you that you almost killed us. I'm just trying to make you aware that you said, look, like you're drunk to me. And I looked him straight, and I didn't resent him, but I'm strong. And he suddenly, his puff at a snake-like stance collapsed. He said, I'm so glad you stopped me. He says, my wife is in hospital and I'm all upset. I said, yeah, just a minute. See, but if I was upset and he's upset, it would have been a fist fight. I mean, both of us would have been worse off. And I talked to him for a few minutes, and we shook hands, and we were friends. See? And that's not likely to happen most places you go to. You react, I react, one of us is going to lose, we both lose. I go off and do something stupid. You go off and do something stupid. I feel good, you feel bad. You feel good, I feel bad. But, you know, we're both, nothing good comes from it. So therefore, all I need to do is not to be resentful, not to return evil with evil, to overcome evil with evil. If you can't overcome my good overcomes you. And paralyzes you, or it saves you, one of the two. It brings you to your senses. See what I'm saying?
I do. And how I perceive it is that your good is defined as your perceptiveness.
Well, I understand evil.
Right. And therefore you're able or calm enough or whatever it is that's required to see it and to speak to and address it.
In other words, I don't hate you.
Right.
I hate the evil in you.
In me.
But you know how I hate the evil in you? By not hating you. I know that it's not you that's doing this to me.
That is perceptiveness.
That's right. I know it isn't you. The religious people say hate the sin, but not the sinner. Mm-hmm. Well, they're quite correct. But how do you hate the sin and not the sinner?
Well, thank you very much. That answers it, because now I can see it.
See, I know that that man was a captive to something.
Yes.
He didn't really want to knock me down. See, he was driven by something that was destructive. It wasn't him. He didn't mean to do all that. So I didn't hate him.
But you understand that people can have possession.
Yeah, well,
and people around us don't even dialogue enough with it to be comfortable with the thought to even think that that's a possibility.
Yes.
That sets you apart.
From other people.
And that allows you to address it, whereas if you have no knowledge or denial or state of denial, you don't address it.
Yes, but it's simply not only the knowledge of this. See, I spoke to you, I used a lot of words. I hope that just the words I used didn't stick in your mind like a poem.
They did not.
I hope the words I used raised your consciousness.
It did.
So that you can actually forget the words.
I did.
And therefore you stay in a state of consciousness where that you get to everybody with good, but nobody gets to you with bad. See what I mean?
I
It's
do.
a state of mind.
But it is a sharing that you and I have had that has confirmed it in myself. I assumed it, but I was addressing you for confirmation.
Good.
And I got it.
Good. So now you go and do likewise.
I have done
You become immune. The more you deal with a bull, the matador deals with a bull, the more of a gracious matador he becomes. And until after a while, the bull can't do anything to him at all. He can sort of do backflips and somersaults and
Well, this morning, before
touch him.
I was even awakened, the phone rang and it awakened me, which is a bad time to answer a phone. At least it is for me, because it's like I need at least to wash my face. But I answered it because anyway. But the person who was on the phone was extremely angry and all of a sudden took it into her mind that she was going to correct me and tell me everything that I have done that she considers wrong. And her tone of voice was so abusive that I just hung up on her.
Fine. If you want to hang up on somebody, hang up on them, but don't be angry.
I noticed that I wasn't, I was a little, because I guess I was half asleep, but I noticed that I did not feel anger. I felt a flicker of it, but it didn't last.
It dies. See, that way, if you get angry and you hang up the phone, then you feel guilty that you hung up the phone and you feel like you did something wrong. You did. You were angry at that person, and that's what makes you feel like you didn't confront them with love, to make them realize that their rudeness was rudeness and abusive. No one ever did that before. Everybody knuckled under to it, resented it. They got upset and became loud and stupid, made a fool of themselves. They became upset and nothing and took it. They let people dump on them. See?
But that's also because I now am beginning to really understand the meditation, where before I was doing it almost on automatic to handle the pressures of life. But I didn't have a basic knowledge of, because of the false philosophies or religions that I had been literally brainwashed with.
Yes.
So I didn't have a basic foundation of understanding that I was in war with evil. I had become a people pleaser, but it wasn't a people pleaser. I thought I was loving God in people, and so I didn't have the discernment.
Did you hear that? What she said? You just have to freeze frame that. You see, remember I said a few moments ago that when you respond to an intimidating authority, a little piece of that authority get inside you, and somehow you have to knuckle under to that and surrender to it, to appease it, to get love from them. And this love for them and from them completes you. And you think, and that's exactly what it makes you think. It makes you think you're loving God in people, but it's the devil.
I know, and of course I became a saint in that system.
Who understands that? Can you really see that? See, and it deceives you that this is loving God and giving in to people and loving people and surrendering to people and knuckling under the priest or the church or the rabbi, yes, or to your wife, to your children, anybody who has that power to intimidate you, to yield to them and fulfill you with a false love. See, so to make you embrace what is false, thinking that this surrender to this intimidating source is being good to the God in people. No, sir. A lie. And you see, the moment you see lies, the moment you see it, you're free. You see, you've got to stand back, and that's the whole idea of this conversation, is to bring you, not to teach you anything, but with words, with many, many words, which I hope you do not learn, to raise your level of consciousness and you come closer to the light from which you've fallen that first day when you were resentful towards your mother and father, which perpetuates to this very day with everybody. So evil is always overcoming your good. Now you have to learn to be patient, calm, stay in your center and say, ha, I know what you're all up to. You watch them out, and as I say in my cassettes, watch them through merry eyes twinkling, unflinching. Face them. Okay? Well, that ends our session. We hope that that you will come again one day. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that. I hope I never see you again. Because I don't want to make anyone dependent on me. What I want to do is, my job is to teach you, set you free. You enjoy listening to my program, you can support it, I'm sure you do. There's no one running around with a little hat. There's no pressures. If I have to pressure you to give, it's not the kind of giving I want. You know, I can do that. I can upset you, make you feel guilty, and you give to me to relieve the guilt, and I can tell you how wonderful you are. You know, and then what have I got? Okay. No, we got no time now. We're just winding up. How much time we got? About 30 seconds? Okay, I just want to say thank you very much for coming this evening and allowing your mugs to be shown on television. I know this kind of dialogue you don't find in every home. You don't find it anywhere. I don't know what they got out there in therapy groups or support groups, but it ain't what we've got here, right? And I want to thank you very, very much for coming this evening.